Hey, if you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe this season or any season, but you don't want to spend a lot of money, then I've got the answer for you, and it's crochet. Let me explain it. I've had the opportunity to work with Litsa from Coco's Crochet for a few months now, and we've been doing a fun collab where we challenged each other to find an item either like in the back of your closet or at the thrift store or anything like that that doesn't really cost much money, and transform it into something better. So for me, this started as a fun collab, but it's really turned into a lot more. Enough that I think I'm going to start a series here where I kind of chronicle how to take something basic and cheap and make it better. Because now that I've started this project, I am looking at things in a totally different light, and I can see different ways to make different pieces of my wardrobe just look better and freshen them up and make them a little more custom. And I can also see where, if there's items in the thrift store or like a hand-me-down and they're like almost right, but not quite right, this is a great way to just add that little extra personalization to really make it yours, and to do so without spending a ton of money. Let's get into it. The first thing you're going to need to do is find your pieces. And as I said earlier, this can be something from the back of your closet, or you can go out and shop for something. In my case, I knew that there was a pretty decent thrift store near me and the prices were pretty reasonable. If you haven't guessed, this cardigan is one of the pieces that I did thrift, and I paid $6 for it. So I do have a couple other videos, and I will link the playlist at the end, but up here I will go ahead and put the video where I show you the sweater. Unfortunately, Litsa did not have the same experience I did. In Australia, where she lives, things are just a little bit different as far as different thrift shops go. So she unfortunately had a much more difficult time with hers, and all of her videos will be in the playlist at the end. But for me, it was easy to find the piece. The next thing I needed to do was to come up with a plan and find the yarn. Check out the playlist. It's got a few other creators on there, and you can find some good inspiration there. You can also check, places like Pinterest are great for finding inspiration. For me, I knew I wanted edging because this cardigan, it came to me like already started basically. It had this brown whip stitch on the sleeves and the front. So basically that just jump-started me, and it was super easy because that took away some of the obstacles. So with a lot of pieces, you are going to want a skip blade. So a skip blade is something you would put on a rotary cutter, and it's not probably 100% necessary. You could probably find ways to puncture holes in here, but it's going to make the job a million times easier. And I'm not like always out there recommending tons of different products. So if I tell you that getting a rotary cutter and a skip blade and a mat to go underneath it is going to make this a lot easier, it really is. Here's my skip blade right here. So this is Fisker's brand. Obviously you can get them at probably every craft store, online. And if you're using this as a rotary cutter for like paper or cloth, this would be a solid cylinder, a solid wheel down here. But since this is made just to puncture, skip, and so on. And as you roll it, it puts those perforations in it. So that was already done, and that's why this piece really spoke to me. It was also like a neutral color, and I knew it would be easy to incorporate into my wardrobe. I thought by doing a solid color yarn, it would match up with the patches that were on the elbows, and I have a ton of this Hirschner's Afghan yarn, which is great for something like this because it is a 2-weight yarn, and it's real fine. So I thought it did a better job of matching up with the fabric of this knitted sweater. Actually, I feel like it does a better job than the yarn they had put on there. And I probably could have taken the time to go through and pull that out, and maybe I should have, but it was brown and it matched good enough, so I just left it. But I thought by adding a thinner weight, it would blend a little more seamlessly with the sweater and really fit the overall feel and vibe. I felt that if I did something that was more chunky, that it would stand out and definitely feel like an add-on and not like just a embellishment. If you are curious why I have a million balls of Hirschner's Afghan yarn, I will leave that video up here. Now, I did do the front of this slightly different than the sleeves, and I was real simple here on the front, and I just created my foundation row off of this whip stitch. So I started out, and what I did was I made a single crochet, and then because these are further apart, I did need to chain 2 and then single crochet into that next whip stitch. So that's the same on the sleeves and the front. At that point on the front, I went through and I just did 1 row of single crochet just to make it nice and solid there. If you were going for a different look, you wouldn't necessarily have to do that, but that's what I wanted for this. And at that point, I went ahead and started my scallop. So I did a double crochet, but I ended up doing 5 for the scallop. And then I ended up taking that last one and skipping 2 and then connecting that last double crochet in the third one and so on. So it made like the fan shape. And I just thought this was nice and simple. And since this was solid, I felt like I had a little more freedom. I felt like I could do something with a little more feminine detail. I wanted the piece to be a little bit more plain so that I could mix it with other things. If you watched the last video in this series, you'll know I also thrifted this Easy Tiger t-shirt. I had originally thought about adding some crochet details to it, like the neckline or the hem. And my friend Mary at Slow Crochet gently threatened me, don't you dare touch the shirt. So I didn't, but I almost felt so guilty that my project was so easy and Litsa was kind of struggling to even find a piece to work on. But again, this leads me to the aspect that I think this is going to be a series where I pick up some different pieces that I'm looking for in my wardrobe, things I want to add into my wardrobe, and just kind of like zhuzh them up a little bit. I have 2 projects. I don't know if it will work out or not, but I picked up a hoodie and I picked up a ball cap. So those are going to be the next 2 projects on my agenda as far as taking them from pretty basic to a little bit bougie. Getting back to what I did here on the sleeves, I did make these just a little bit longer. So instead of doing a row of single crochets here, I did a row of double crochets and then went ahead and did my scallops. And I just like, you know, just the feeling of a little bit longer sleeve there. And it did give me a little bit more mobility in the hand as well. I didn't have any problems with this because I was chaining multiples in between here, but I would suggest that if you're working on a sleeve, be very mindful of how much it needs to stretch. You know, are you a person that likes to bunch up your sleeves? You will want to make sure that it is, when I say loose enough, I mean that you've created enough chains in between those stitches that it's not prohibiting you from lifting that up and stretching it a little bit. There are 2 things real quick I do also want to add as not like a warning, but a little bit of a guideline if you are wanting to, you know, get into this yourself. And the first one is going to be mindful of your budget. You want to keep that in mind when you're working on these pieces. I had plenty of Afghan yarn in the colors that I like here in my stash, so I didn't have to spend anything on yarn, and I use such a small amount. I mean, you can, it's like basically almost the whole ball left, so that wasn't an issue. You know, this project for me was $6, and then my t-shirt was like $1.50, so very, very inexpensive. I believe the ball cap I bought was maybe $2-3, and the hoodie I bought was $4. So, you know, I'm going to shop my stash and use some more of the yarn I already have. So those projects are definitely under the price of what you would pay. But, you know, if you are buying a more expensive piece, like especially if it's not a thrifted piece, and then you're having to go out and buy yarn to go with the project, you know, is it really better to make that piece yourself, or is it better to just go buy a piece on its own and be done with it? Just think about that. I'm not trying to discourage my own thing I'm trying to promote here, but I just want you to be realistic about it and maybe think, you know, economically, does it make sense to make this project? You know, when you're looking for that project piece, you know, before you go, take note of the yarns that you have in your stash that you think you'd want to use with it. And like I said earlier, I think the weight of the yarn is going to make a difference. I feel like for something like trim, a more delicate yarn, where with my hoodie piece, I don't want to give away what I'm going to be doing, but I can definitely use a 4 or 5 weight with that because I need it to be a little bit bulkier and sturdier. So, you know, keep in mind the weight of the yarn, the color of the yarn, all of that stuff before you go looking for your project pieces to save you some money and some heartache in the end, and to prevent you from buying pieces that you think you'll upcycle and then, you know, you don't at all. And then the last piece of advice I have if you're wanting to attempt this project, this crochet flip, is you're going to need to be flexible. You cannot go into it thinking that you know exactly what you're going to be doing, because depending on the fabric of your garment, the shape of your garment, how your yarn is looking actually on it, you might get partway into it and be like, black. You got that in there and then hated how it looked and you want to rip it out. It's something to think about there. Like I said, you need it to stretch. So if your yarn is causing problems, you might have to alter it, or you would definitely need to alter the stitch that you're doing. Well, I think these projects, you know, or any project like this, you can be a beginner, you can be an intermediate, you can be an expert and still make alterations and upgrade it in a way that you find pleasing and that works for you and works with the stitches you know. That I don't think you would have a problem with. But if you are a beginner and don't know a ton of stitches, it might be a little bit harder to improvise as much as someone who has a little bit more experience. So don't get frustrated if you are a beginner and you're wanting to try this and it is maybe not going as smooth as you would like. I encourage you to keep at it and stick to it and try a few different things out. You know, this isn't a pattern that needs to be perfect. It's going to be different based on every single piece. And since your piece is 100% unique to you based on the project you picked out and the yarn you picked out and what your plan is, there's no right or wrong. Like, it is unique to you. It is 100% you. So you're not going to, no one's going to walk up to you and say, that's not perfect, because there's no way for it not to be. You created it. I hope this video is inspiring to you and encourages you to dig through your closet or to take advantage of springtime garage sales if you have those in your area, and check out a thrift store and look around and see how you can enhance your wardrobe this spring or in any of the other seasons, because this is applicable to every season there is out there. The playlist for this video will be listed up here. And again, it's not just mine, it is everyone's. So if this is something you want to do in the future and you're just finding out about it now, tag me in the video when it comes out and I will be sure to add it to that playlist as well. Otherwise, I've got another video up here for you. Thank you so much for talking yarn with me today. Bye.